Time now, though, for the markets with Leighton. And Leighton, you say that new supply-demand numbers were released at the end of the week by USDA?
And as we record here at midday on Thursday, the expectation among many analysts was that the government would be increasing the domestic corn and wheat supply. Also coming up in the markets this week, a trade association says the cattle industry is on edge. Cattle futures nudge higher this week, cotton futures, and 44 flour mills around the country are combined into a new venture. The National Cattlemen's Beef Association says the uncertainty over the potential furloughs of federal meat inspectors mentioned earlier has the cattle industry on edge. A spokesman says the industry is left to wonder about the impact on the overall supply of beef and whether there will be a backup of live cattle waiting to go into processing plants. Meanwhile, live cattle futures on Wednesday saw triple-digit losses, and feeder cattle were also under pressure. Analyst Don Roos is keeping an optimistic outlook, though, on the beef sector.
I think what happened is the cattle market just got ahead of itself. Last December, we had 138 April cattle. We pushed all the way down to 127, and I think we've kind of had a reality check. February cattle bet off the board at 128, and I think what it really says is April cattle are worth more than that, just from a better demand and a lower supply. So cattle probably have put in a seasonal low and time to move up.
Meanwhile, in the hog sector, a hoped-for spring price recovery seems to be somewhat threatened now. Analysts say there's a chance prices may not rise high enough to reach break-even levels. The price situation for pork is said to be the result of weak demand. Consumers have less money to spend due to higher payroll taxes and higher gasoline. And on the export side, sales of U.S. pork to both Russia and China are threatened because of a muscle-promoting feed additive. Analyst John Roach says the same uncertainty that the beef sector is dealing with is also at play in the hog sector.
The Chinese have requested that as of March 1 that there's a third party that's going to need to verify that the pork that they're purchasing is free of that feed additive, and that's an uncertainty that's come into the market. And at the same time, we've got the uncertainty of the sequestration and what's going to happen as far as meat inspectors. So there's a lot of uncertainty that is in front of the market at the moment, and that uncertainty always puts pressure on prices, and that's what we've been seeing. And I think for a little bit, until we clear up some of these issues, we're going to struggle to move the pork market any higher.
Our trivia quiz this week deals with the Extension Service, and here's the question. How many Extension Service offices are there in Mississippi? Is the answer A, 41, or B, 54, or C, 69, or D, 82? You'll find out the answer in a few more minutes. As we mentioned at the beginning of the markets, the average guess among analysts is that the March 8th monthly supply-demand reports will raise ending stock projections for both corn and wheat. Traders believe demand for these two commodities has slowed to the point that the numbers in the new report will reflect an increase in supplies. Well, cotton futures have touched a 10-month high during this past week or so. DTN calls it a winning streak for the fiber market. Extension Ag economist John Michael Riley shared some thoughts on cotton with me late Thursday morning. John Michael, has the market been somewhat surprised by the week that cotton's had?
I've been somewhat surprised by the month and a half that cotton's had. It's really been, we've kind of gotten off the roller coaster, been steadily moving higher since really the first of the year. Various positive news have been coming into the market over this course of this time, and so it's really taken everybody by surprise, I think.
But yet we still have the world stock situation. We still have record large world stocks sitting there, right?
And that's why everybody is surprised, is because there are so many out there, China holding about 50% of those supplies, and everybody with a big question mark over their head about what are they going to do with these supplies. It looks like they're not going to be pushing them out there, you know, and putting a lot of pressure on prices, and that's why we have seen a gradual increase in cotton prices throughout the course of 2013 so far.
Mm-hmm. Are we thinking that what has happened will definitely have an impact on planting intentions here as we lead into the spring, later in the spring?
I think that can be expected. If you look at the relationship of cotton prices versus corn and beans, which really is what it's competing for in acres, cotton has made really big gains since the first of the year. And whether it's an attempt to buy acres or it's a fact that corn and soybean prices have just been under pressure, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see a bit larger cotton acreage number than what has been reported previously.
So here we are in March. Consumers have had to pay more in payroll taxes. Gasoline has gone up. A lot of factors at play. And again, we've always talked about cotton. The economy, how it's doing is a main factor, and that certainly is going to be in play here as time goes on. It
will continue to be, but there's also been some nuggets of good news. Just last week, some news came out. GDP grew instead of shrunk in the fourth quarter. It's almost like this push-pull. It seems like for every bit of good news, we get some bad news, but the economy does appear to be growing. There are some hiccups we still have to get over, but as that continues to happen, cotton does rely heavily on general economic news, and so that's aided this increase in prices over the past couple of weeks and months.
ConAgra Foods, Cargill, and CHS have all signed an agreement, one that combines each of the company's flour mills into a new operation, one called Ardent Mills. This joint venture encompasses all of North America. It involves a total of 44 different mills. Ardent Mills will control now more than a third of the flour milling capacity in the United States. Before this week's feature story is the trivia answer for you, and this week it is D. There are 82 offices of the Mississippi State University Extension Service in the state. One is located in every county.